Very warm welcome back to my channel, everybody. My name's Karen Saunders, and I'm going to be talking about all things Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, tonight we have another Escape from the Tower story, and I will be talking to Shayne Mechen. He has a lot of experience with Jehovah's Witnesses, being an elder himself when he was in it. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our dear friend Shayne. And he's based in New Zealand. So Shayne, welcome to the channel. How are you going?
I'm doing pretty good here in New Zealand. A little bit cold outside, but at least it's not too freezing.
No, well, it's still winter here in Australia, but I can't complain. Anyway, it's very, very nice to have you on the channel. I've been trying to organize this for some time now, and so we finally I know you're very busy. We finally got around to having a chat with you.
We have.
So would you just like to tell us a little bit about the background you've had with Jehovah's Witnesses, how you came in to be involved in it, and what has been your experiences while you were in there?
I was in the JWs for 42 odd years. My first meeting was at 4 days old. So since inception, I've been a JW because my father had been one for a long time. My mother, I soon later in life learned that she only got baptized because she wanted to marry my father, and she didn't actually believe in a God. So, and it wasn't until she left and then I left that I found out all that sort of thing. So for my whole life, what happened in my life, I thought it was normal, which I now know it's not normal. And yeah, it was just one of those things that in everyday life that we had, it was just what we expected in our lives.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, my first meeting was 4 days old, and I remember sleeping on the floor in a place called Napier. There was no such things as carpets. It was all tiles, vinyl tiles, and I'd fall asleep on the floor. And I think the time I fell asleep on the carpet, there was one time when a guy came in. I knew him, and he threw the old publications around, and then I never saw him again.
Oh.
So every time I fell asleep, something happened. Maybe I shouldn't have fell asleep. Had a bit of entertainment or something. But yeah, it was one of those things that in the Napier Kingdom Hall, that's where I grew up. They split.
I'm sure you didn't miss much.
Well, I don't know. I did find a up in the Kingdom Hall roof, because we did do a couple of refurbishments. This was before
Right.
the crack build came, and I think they made some sparrows fall asleep because all I could find up there was a skeleton. There was no feathers, and they were just a skeleton sitting in the roof. But that's only just come to my. I haven't thought about that for years.
For a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah, you have the flashbacks, don't you?
You do get the flashbacks.
You do. Yeah, I lived myself. Me and my husband, we lived in New Zealand for a number of years, North Island in Cambridge, of all places. We were in that congregation, and then Hamilton and Otrahonga, and out in the sticks. Very beautiful country. I do miss the aesthetics of New Zealand, I have to admit. It's a very beautiful place.
I don't miss them.
No,
because I live here.
You
That's
live
all
here,
I'm used
exactly.
to.
Right, so you've never left the country then? Have you never left
Oh
the
no,
country?
I've left the country. I've visited other places, but I've
Right.
never lived in another country.
Right, okay. Very, very good. So bringing it up to, you're growing up now, and then you're in the congregation. So did you become a ministerial servant and then an elder? What happened there? Are you married? Did you have children?
Well, I did, but before I got married, I always wanted to make sure I was a ministerial servant.
Right.
So leading up to that time, I got baptized when I was 15. My then wife, because I'm no longer with her, little did I know, she also got baptized at the same convention, a few minutes apart in Wellington.
Oh,
And it wasn't until
wow.
we were looking at photographs that in my then wife's pictures, you could see my little sister.
Really?
And it was that we didn't know at the time. So I happened to get introduced to her in a bridal. I was asked to be part of the bridal group. And they said, oh, maybe you'd like this person. I went, no, not interested. Oh, that
Oh,
didn't work because I ended up getting married to her. So
amazing.
yeah, at the time it was interesting. But there was a lot of things like when you think of growing up as a male or even a female, you don't really get told apart from, well, this is the ideal wife and she should be answering at the meetings and she should be doing this and studying and all the other things, never thinking about actual life skills or life in itself and
Right.
whether you're really that compatible. Because as we know, they tell a male what they should be like and a female what she should be like in submission. And you don't really get to know a person in a short space of time.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I did become a ministerial servant, but to lead up to that, I regular pioneered for 4 or 5 years, moved to where the need was great up in a place, well, once I left Napier, I went to a place called Waiheke Island.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I left Waiheke Island because there was too many females. Only lasted six months. Then I thought, no, I got to get out of here. Went to a place called JWorg. That's where I was part of that bridal party. I moved down to Wellington to a place called Johnsonville.
Right.
That's where I got married, and we were married at the Lower Hutt Kingdom Hall. Um,
Yes, I've heard of Lower Hutt.
yeah, it's sort of out in the Hutt Valley. You got Upper Hutt, Lower Hutt, Wainui Mata, that sort of area. So that's
Right.
the Kingdom Hall we got married in. And then we were in the Johnsonville congregation for a while. Then a circuit overseer came to visit, and he was talking once again about where the need was great. So we left Johnsonville and moved to a place called Pahiatua, which is about half an hour away from my present location.
All right. Okay.
So we went up there,
Mm.
had a look. We left the meeting, went up there because we had some friends, went and stayed with them. Things seemed to work out, and before we know it, 2 or 3 weeks later, we were shifted there.
Right.
And that was a small place. I can't remember exactly how many people we had in the congregation, but 40, 45, give or take.
Right. So pretty small congregation although by today's standards, I don't know what that means anymore because it's
No,
diminishing, isn't it?
it
I mean,
is.
you might, yeah, I want to pick your brains about that as well, Shayne, because you'll probably have a little bit of inside information for all of us. But so you were bobbing along really nicely and doing your thing as a
Yep.
Jehovah's Witness. And then was there anything, while you were in there, was there anything that used to make you think, what am I doing here? Or is this really the true religion? Was there anything like that that ever, kind of entered into your mind
Well,
ever?
yeah, there was, but I didn't follow through on it. So one time in Napier, we had a district convention. I don't know how old I was. I was pretty young, might have only been 10. And I stood up and said to my father something. I can't remember the exact words. What I do remember was, well, let's talk about that when we get home, Shayne. I said, oh, okay then. And we carried on. I don't remember ever asking him that question again.
Oh,
And even when I was ministerial servant, and there was a number of times as an elder, I would query things and then I'd go, oh, no, you bit weak there, Shayne. I never asked any further questions. Even on the way to a quick build, I was an elder. I was doing these things. And I go, what am I doing? What? And I never followed up on any of that.
mm, Interesting.
So it was like I'd always told, if you, or being told, I should say, if you have a question, pray, do some research in the publications. I didn't even do that. It was like I'm going and
Right,
okay, next day, and then it would happen again. Same
right.
thing happened. I'd go, yeah, well, just keep going, Shayne. I remember saying that to myself. And once again, I didn't go back to asking myself that same question.
You just dismissed it. Every
Yeah,
time you dismissed it. Yeah,
every
yeah.
time. And
Mm,
even after I'd left, it took 6 or 7 years to even critically think or research or whatever.
right, right. Okay.
So yeah, no,
It's
there was not one thing. And in the end, in Pahiatua congregation, I ended up being the only elder. Elders meetings were really quick because I'd ask the secretary, hey, what do you think? That was me. Service overseer, oh, that was me. They were
that
very,
was
very
me.
quick.
Oh
I
wow, what a
laugh about that.
responsibility. Wow, yeah.
But I did use other older men that I thought were experienced, kind, and would understand what I'd went through, being the only elder for quite a while. And
Right.
and it was just like I got burnt out. Life came along, hit me in the backside. Um, and in the end, I just wrote a letter and said, no. So the things that happened in life, you never expect them to happen.
Mm,
And it's just one of those things where I went, no, that's it. I've had enough.
right.
There was a reason I disassociated though. And I won't enlarge too much on that, but it was just a way to keep an individual from talking to me about Jehovah's Witnesses. And that was a former wife, because what she
Oh,
wanted was for me to come right. In other words, do what I was doing, all the meetings, all the field service, all the study, helping out here, helping out. And I had had enough. And I thought, right,
right.
if I disassociate, she can't talk to me about that stuff.
Wow, it must have been. I'm just trying to absorb what you said there. It must have been pretty heavy for you. You must have felt very compressed with your life, like kind of the pressure to be everything to everybody, especially in that congregation where you were the only elder. You know,
No,
the
it
the
never
press.
was,
Oh, really? Right. Okay.
because I was always brought up. My father was an elder, and he always taught me, well, he suggested that you do things to help the congregation.
Right.
And so as an elder, that's how I firmly believed I needed to act. You go and be there. You go around and visit, not shepherding calls, but you just go and visit and say hello to the older ones. You go and help young fellas, not girls, but young fellas, to be able to go and do things because they didn't have dads who were a JW.
Right.
And so I saw my father do all that sort of thing.
Right.
And so as I grew up, I thought that was normal. And I believe it's still the right thing. You be there to help, to support.
So, right. Okay. Well, that's textbook. That's a textbook Jehovah's Witness, isn't it? Let's be
Yeah,
honest. In your situation, the reality is very, very different to that these days. Um,
definitely.
yeah. So basically, what you're saying is, and please tell me if I'm overstepping the mark. Basically, the pressure came from your ex-wife. That's what you're saying.
Yes and no.
Right.
I still have to. I was an adult. I wasn't a child. So I needed to be able to handle it. So whatever I did, it was what I thought was the best way for me to handle it. Yes, there was pressure, but I also put pressure on myself.
Right.
along with, the elders doing their elder thing, to encourage me to come back.
Right. Okay. So
And that was before I disassociated.
I was going to say, was that before you disassociated? Because once you're out, you're out.
Yeah.
So so were you disassociated in that congregation too, where you had all the responsibility?
No, I left.
No, you left. Right.
Yeah, as a
So,
family, we moved away.
okay. Right. So what was the determining factor then? If it, apart from your wife, what else? Something must have been making you think, I don't want this anymore. I don't want to do this. This is the reason why. What was it? What was the defining moment?
I had had enough. I
Right.
was tired.
Okay.
And the best way for me at the time, I was thinking, obviously I might do things differently now, but at the time I hadn't woken up. I was still a JW even when I wrote and disassociated myself.
Right. Okay.
And it took 7 years, give or take, for me to ask the first question, which led me down the rabbit hole, and I go, oh, what the hell was I part of?
Okay. So can I ask you what that was, the very first point? Was it something
Yeah, very
yeah.
simple.
So what was it?
An elder can stay an elder if it appears he has Jehovah's Holy Spirit, in other words, doing things, even if years before he had done something wrong. And I went, what? That's not right. And then it was the Australian Royal Commission.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I didn't even know the Australian Royal Commission was going on.
All right. Yeah. Well, you, me, and everybody else included who's out now.
Yep.
And I think yeah, I mean, the organisation and your local elders in the congregation, they're not going to turn around and say, hey, go along and watch the Australian Royal Commission, because it's not an apostate video. But we don't, they're not going to say that, because everybody know, you and I know what happened there. Yeah. And I think what did it for me was Jeffrey Jackson. When I first saw him, and he said it would be presumptuous for us to say that
Yep.
we were the do you know, Shayne, I must have rewound that talk. I must have rewound that statement at least half a dozen times, because I could not believe what I was hearing. How did you feel about that as an elder, an ex-elder?
I just had to laugh at myself, at him, because it was just, what?
Yeah, exactly.
It was unbelievable to hear him say such things when we know, as being part of the JWs, they're the only true religion.
Yeah.
No.
Right. Okay. And I just want to just go back a bit. So when you were an elder, for example, when you were in a congregation where there were other elders, what were those meetings like? Just the elders meetings, and the elder schools where the governing body would, teach you different things about how to deal with the congregations. What were they like? Because I've never had the opportunity to ask an elder, an ex-elder, this. What were they like? Be
I've heard,
honest.
no, I will. I definitely will. I've heard elders, and people have asked me before, and my normal comment is, it depends on who the elder body is. Like, I can think back in Napier, my sister, just going on to a family member, was kicked out. She was
Right.
disfellowshipped, not on the word of two witnesses, just on her father.
Oh, really?
The word
Wow.
of her father kicked her out. Now, at some time later, a elder who was in Napier moved away to another congregation not far from me. And there was an old guy, some of the old timers were so Hitler whatever, that what they said basically went. That person stopped any further discussion of reinstatement for my sister. Now, I know some in the Napier congregation had a number of elders that were, I suppose, headstrong is the best word to put it.
Right.
And they would run roughshod over the rest of the body of elders. In my case, we had, there was 3 elders when I became an elder, and they were all loving most of the time.
Right.
So you ask about what was it like? I never dealt with any child abuse. Didn't even know it existed.
I was going to ask you that, but I thought maybe you could read between the lines and bring that up. So that was very fortunate for you then.
Yeah, and I often wonder, okay, so they tell us to ring the service department, and yet the elders book said, as Kingdom Hall got vandalised, go to the police. I don't know what I would have done, apart from
Mm,
what I did when I was the chair of a committee. And that was, I had the book open on my lap or on top of my bag, and I followed rule step 1, step 2, step 3, and that's what I followed. What I would have done, I don't know, if I'd had to deal with a child abuse case.
right.
So when some of the meetings, I think back on all the ones that the committee meetings that I was chair on or even part of. Now, predominantly when I was chair, I would ask them, what is it that you would like us to do? Is there a way we can help you? Because I firmly believe we needed to try and help. Out of
Yeah.
all the meetings that I was in that position, only one did we take the affirmative action of disfellowshipping somebody. Now, that
Right.
particular thing that the woman did, was that not that wrong, looking back on it? And yet, about 2.5 years, and then I came into the exJW community, I had a woman reach out, and I recognized the first name, I didn't recognize the last name. And she goes, is this the Shayne Mechen from Pahiatua congregation? I went, uh-oh, it is.
And then you recognised her then as soon as she said that.
I went,
Right.
oh, no, here we go. Anyway, we ended up having a meal with her. And she goes, Shayne, I was so grateful when you disfellowshipped. She didn't know how to get out of being a JW. I didn't know that at the time,
Right.
but she was glad that it wasn't there. So the body that I was on most of the time was a very loving, concerning group of men.
Men. Right.
Now, I know that's not always the case, because there were elders that came in after they had left or who stepped down. And some of them were, I'll put it this way, when I left, one of them, I had many people come and say to me, why did you leave?
Oh, really?
You realize this guy is doing this, this, and this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he had turned them, he made all the things he wanted more important than what was more important to the
To the
publishers.
people. Right. Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying
Which,
I was a perfect elder, because I know I wasn't.
no, but
It's really hard in that situation where the men there, they do not want elders that think for themselves. They want elders that are little
yes, men.
sheep,
Mm,
company men that will go and follow the instructions and do what they want them to do. So I don't believe I would actually qualify to be an elder right now. Not that I want to be one,
no,
but it's
no.
just, you look back on what they have to do now, and I just go, what the hell is this place turning into?
Right. That's a thank you for sharing that. That's very, very interesting because and you would know more than most. I don't think that it is a particularly safe environment to be an elder these days when you look at the way that the governing body are palming more and more responsibility on to the elders through the circuit overseer. And yet at the same time, they don't realise that they're being love bombed to the max,
Yep.
because I don't know about you, Shayne, but the fact that now they are training you know, the calls going out now to young, you know, exemplary unbaptized publishers that can be trained up, you know, from early teens and can become a ministerial servant, you know, in their teens. I mean, what is all that about, Shayne? Please enlighten me and everybody else.
Well, that's a very good question. I look at the age that a person can become an elder, you know, 25-ish. How would you feel being married for 30 or 40 years and having this 25-year-old come to you and try and give you marriage guidance? And you're going,
Exactly.
what? Now, I can understand the ministerial servant sort of things because they're not really going to do a lot of teaching parts. They are designed to be helpers to the elders to do things and then be hopefully trained up, which doesn't seem to happen too much. But having older men that are so young, because they're not older, like I was on the younger side as an elder. I was appointed at 28. That was too young. A week later, after I'd been appointed, I thought, what the hell have I got myself into?
Really?
It
Wow.
was, even though I was a ministerial servant and I was doing a lot of the elders stuff, I had no idea, literally no idea what I'd got myself in to help the congregation.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, 28, that sounds pretty old by today's standards
Oh,
now.
definitely by today's standards, but it was younger for back, you know, back in, when I got
back in
appointed
the
in
day.
1995.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So, yeah, not that long ago, really, long enough, but not
All
that long
changed.
ago. It's all changed. So,
Yep.
just bringing it up to New Zealand now, their Royal Commission, and you know what is going on because the organisation, I mean, New Zealand comes under the Australasia branch, so um, they're now trying. They put their appeal in way too late, only like the other Friday, and now they've got egg on their face, but they still think that they can clear Watchtower's name. I mean, what are your thoughts on all of this? You've got some insight. You know what's going on more than any of us because you're over there. Tell us what you think from start to finish. What are they trying to achieve? What's going to go on? And what do you think the outcome will be, Shayne?
Well, just to give you an update as to how it stands, next week on the 14th of August, that is the last day that they can make an appeal to the filing of their appeal and trying to get the case study of the Jehovah's Witnesses stopped. So that was back in June, and that was lodged on a Friday, come to a
Right.
Tuesday, and the court said, no, you're way too late, like you said, and this is a last-minute ditch effort to try and stop any release of the case study for Jehovah's Witnesses. So while it is out in public for everybody to read, the Attorney General, Governor General, it's the one that does the law. I've lost her name. She's one of the MPs in the local government, and I've lost my thought. Oh, no, I haven't. And the Jehovah's Witnesses, they agreed that it would be released, the case study, and then they would have to the 14th of August, which is next week. What do we got? 5-6 days. I've not heard if that appeal has been continued, lodged, or stopped. Next week, hopefully we'll find out. But what did happen earlier this week, Missimo, the old Watchtower spin doctor, where he gets out there and justifies all the cult, how good they are and blah, blah, blah. The article that he released on Bitter Waters is now in the hands of the Crown lawyers.
Oh, really?
Because I said, here's Jehovah's Witness tactics. They get the information together. They then pass it on to Missimo Spin Doctor, and this is how they are putting their spin on it. So
Right.
they have that information, and
Mm,
all along, not only myself, but many exJWs and non-exJWs have sent our Royal Commission items of interest to build up a picture, because Jehovah's Witnesses have not been investigated.
right. When you say they haven't been investigated, in what capacity are you talking about now?
Any capacity.
Oh, right.
There
Okay.
was no public hearing. There was no
Oh,
investigation. There was no witnesses called up to be spoken or being able to speak. There was none of that, like some of the other faith-based organisations. It never happened.
oh,
So where they got the information for the case study, which I have my copy here somewhere, was from the statements of all the ones that came forward in the courageous activities. And these 64 pages, what have I written on that post-it note? Oh, that's just bits and pieces for another interview. All the statements, watchtowers' difficult behavior, their deflections, their attitudes in the court. This is what made up the case study.
oh, really?
So while they've never been investigated, and to me that's a little bit of a concern, because how the hang are they going to get all these bits and pieces sorted? To the Royal Commission's credit, I believe they did a pretty good job in getting to the point of some of the fallacies and lies that Watchtower told.
Right. Look, I've got goosebumps just listening to you, because this is the organisation you and I know as ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that claim to be truly representative of Almighty God. And then you look at scriptures, because I don't know about what your religious persuasion is now, but I'm a born again Christian, and I look at those scriptures that say be in subjection to the superior authorities, right? But they are exempt from their own council, Jehovah's Witnesses, when it comes to applying the scriptures and going to court, and being honest and transparent about their their dealings and their actions and their behavior within the organization. I think they are so very fortunate. Maybe the next protest should be that the Australasia branch should be investigated. The police, the powers that be should go and investigate all of these people, because up to now, to be honest, they've gotten away with a heck of a lot, even though they might claim or feign we're being persecuted, and put that on JWorg. But the reality is they're being questioned about crimes, Shayne. It's nothing to do with the organization and being persecuted. These are crimes against children and babies, for goodness sake.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're not even willing to come to the plates. I remember reading about somebody called, there was two judges. One of them was Judge Ellis. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep,
she's already intimated there's no point appealing Jehovah's Witnesses because you're going to lose. She's already so. And this is the thing, the representative, of Jehovah's Witnesses are saying, we're concerned about how we're being presented or represented, and so we've got no alternative but to go to court. Excuse me, what are your concerns when, as you've said, the court system and the governments have been so comprehensive, so utterly comprehensive in their investigations thus far? I mean, they're really pushing the boat, aren't they, Jehovah's Witnesses? They're really pushing
Jehovah's
the
Witnesses
boat,
aren't, but the leadership is.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's what I mean when I say Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, it's
Watchtower.
just,
Watchtower, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a difference, because most of them think we're attacking Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, no, we're
No,
not.
no, we're not.
There are some lovely, kind-hearted Jehovah's Witnesses that have no idea what they are tied up in. Something
Um,
will have to happen to them for them to question it. Then the doors open just a little fraction.
yeah,
And then if a question comes along, that door might slide
slide a bit
open.
open.
And then
Exactly.
we can, they can ask a question. We can give them an answer, let them think about it, walk away, and tell them, if you want to know more, come back to us.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So,
But look,
the bit you were saying before, Judge
yes,
Ellis,
yes,
latest appeal where they got turned down, Justice Cook, he
Cook, that's
basically
it.
said there's not a very high chance of it going to Supreme Court. Now, in New Zealand, Supreme Court is the highest court. And because of what he saw, not only from past cases, and there's been a number of them, he could honestly not see what the JWs, the Watchtower, were really worried about. Even Alice said, what have you got to hide? Every organization, wouldn't they welcome an investigation to clear their name if they've got nothing to hide?
100%. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and those ones who are not JWs, because we make sure any JW stuff gets put out there, because we are, as what we call JW for Justice, we make sure that New Zealand hears about the New Zealand JW side of things, but also in the other part of the world. And the reason we called it JW for Justice, there was a number of exJWs, and I said, look, this is what we want to do. Can we have some suggestions? And the name we came up with was the JW for Justice, because current JWs, they expect things to be done, and former JWs likewise. So regardless of whether we're a former one or a current Jehovah's Witnesses, we expect justice to be served. And there's plenty of current JWs that do not understand why the Jehovah's Witnesses are in the state that they're in.
Well, they won't know, will they? Because
They're
all
not
they
told.
know is what the cherry picking that goes on who decides what goes on JWorg. And this is they have rank and file witnesses have not one clue about this conversation that we're talking about now. They haven't got a clue what's going on.
Nope.
They have not. And of course, this is how Watchtower, and I'm referring now to headquarters, this is how Watchtower want it. But it's like I've said, Shayne, and if you've got a thought on this, please go for it. But it's like I've said, because of the avalanche of public information now and social media and the platforms like YouTube, people are not holding back. And Watchtower have just been sat on their hands for way too long, thinking that everything will be, swept under the carpet and it'll all brush over and we can carry on manipulating and deceiving like we have been for decades. But you see, it's not happening like that anymore. Nobody is afraid to speak out that needs to speak out now. That's it.
Yep.
And the voice is growing.
It is.
It's growing. So when you are talking about this that's happening in New Zealand, what part or what percentage now is your life wrapped up in all of this? And are you supporting these people, some of these people that have been through the mill, with regards to abuse and stuff like that? What's your role now?
Our original goal was to get to the end of the commission.
Right.
Now, we know a large amount of the ones that are in this report. So when it first came out, we made sure we rang them to see if they're okay, the ones that we knew. We did what we could. There's only so much you can do to be able to support individuals.
Right.
If they need it, we can find it, or we can
Okay.
get somebody there to help them. But primarily, we've got to make sure that the victims of all sorts of abuse are looked after.
Right. Okay.
And so
Okay.
when they do come ahead and say, we do need help, and it doesn't happen too often because they do have their support group around them.
Yeah.
Now we're not doing too much on the commission side of it because the commission has been finished.
Right.
It
Okay.
basically finished last year.
Right.
Um,
So my question then, so just before I ask this question, so that JWorg support, is that a website that I can put on the description when
it's a Facebook group. People can reach us through there, or we do have a web page, and I can give you those details. The web page, once again, it's getting ready to be updated because our focus has now changed.
Right.
So originally the web page was set up for the commission, helping the commission with the information, like some of the questions they needed people to ask or answer, I should say. So we put a JW slant on it so that it would make sense, because the original form was a little bit not easy to follow. And so a
Okay.
group of us at the time, we got down and we wanted to make sure that it was as simple as possible for anybody who wanted to come forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some took advantage of that, and others what the commission did offer. And I'm no good at writing things. I would rather speak. And so I spoke with an investigator. And then they came back to me and they said, look, we want you to do another statement with regards to the elder side of things,
Right.
which I was only too happy, but that took me a long time because they didn't record it.
Right. Okay.
And I
Never
had to
mind.
write that one, but it did get there just in time before the JWs did another court case, and they were able to use some of the information along with a number of other former elders to go into that case.
Right. So just bringing it, condensing it all together then. So the Royal Commission took place last year, obviously.
Yeah,
So
finished last year.
finished last year. So what, so the complete outcome, it hasn't been finalized yet, has it? As to,
Yes.
is it, so is there a redress scheme?
No,
Right.
not at this point in time.
Are you fighting for that?
There is not much we can do. The network we're part of is fighting for it, but as JW for Justice, no, we're not. Well, I guess we are because we're in there helping
Right.
where we can.
Okay.
What has happened is the government they are now under the pump from public to get the redress scheme sorted. So
Right.
while we are adding our voice at the moment, you will find an answer on November, it was either the 2nd or the 4th, when they make an apology,
November. Right. Okay.
and then they will let the public know what will happen with regards to redress.
Okay. So that's very interesting what you've just said there, Shayne. An apology. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know to this day. The Jehovah's Witnesses have never, Watchtower have never ever publicly apologised on the
Correct.
Australian Law Commission.
Yep.
So the chances of New Zealand getting an apology are about as slim as well. What can I say? They're about as slim as they can be,
Yep.
really.
One of the recommendations.
Everybody else has come on board. Every other religious entity, including even in Australia, it was the Catholic Church. They couldn't apologise enough. And of course, Jehovah's Witnesses here, the Watchtower, they were reluctant. They were the last ones to join the redress scheme. And they only did that not because they cared for the abuse of what people went through, but because they would lose their charity status here. And that's my next question to you. Do you think, or do you hope, or do you envisage at all Jehovah's Witnesses being defunded in New Zealand? Wouldn't that be an outcome?
You've got to go back to the minister in charge. And what
Right.
she has said is that they're not sure whether faith-based will be included in any redress scheme. You heard me correct.
Are you
That was
kidding
on
me?
public news, and we put it up on our JW for Justice Facebook page and on Twitter. The
Oh my
minister in
goodness.
charge said,
Are you
we do
kidding me?
not know. And I'm going, they
No.
feel that the churches can look after it themselves. We know the answer to that. Regardless, the Jehovah's Witnesses, Catholics, Anglicans, they do not know how to look after victims.
Well, it's like Jeffrey Jackson said at the Australian Royal Commission when Angus Stewart, brilliant, one of the most amazing senior QCs I've ever had the good fortune to hear. And he knew his stuff regarding Jehovah's Witnesses. And he talks about mandatory reporting, how it should be applicable with Jehovah's Witnesses in every country. Jeffrey Jackson's response was, we wish mandatory reporting was available in every country. It'd make our job a whole lot easier. Well, guess what, Jeffrey? How about ethically and morally doing
Yeah.
the right thing by the children? Never mind, lawfully. But this is this organisation, and rank and file it'll just go over their heads. Oh, we're being persecuted and all that rubbish again. But for me personally, I will eat this. I will eat this book if I find out that Jehovah's Witnesses have actually apologized and they come to
your book will be safe.
Plate.
You will not have to put tomato sauce, salt and pepper, or butter on the book to make it more palatable. It will be safe. No, they won't apologize, even though in our recommendations, it specifically said that the governing body should apologize. It ain't going to happen. Your book is definitely safe.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, they don't, in the good old-fashioned words of Geoffrey Winder at the last AGM, they don't even have to apologise when they get doctrinal matters wrong. They'd rather blame God, when they get things wrong, because they're not inspired or infallible. So my question was at the time, well, if that's the case, why would anybody want to listen to them? But anyway, there you go. So I just got a couple more questions now. So since you left Jehovah's Witnesses, may I ask, where are you at? Are you a spiritual person now, or have you just given up on everything, or where are you at? Are you a Christian? What's going on with you at the moment, spiritually speaking, Shayne?
To use Crocodile Dundee saying,
yeah,
I'm doing a walkabout.
Oh,
Um,
very good.
I have not, like my clients, when I go into their houses, the Christians, I don't know what sort of branch of Christianity they are, but they don't believe that a person can make up his own mind and that I should listen to them.
Ah, okay.
And all I can say is, look, at this point in time, I'm not interested.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I do ask all of my guests that
I don't
question.
mind you asking.
Yeah,
I don't mind at all, because I honestly don't know.
Yeah, and some of them are like we, since we left the organisation, we've been that traumatized. We're just finding our feet. Other people like me have come out and jumped straight into being a born again Christian.
Yep.
Everybody's different, and nobody should be judged because of that decision. But it is a question that I always ask. And also, I want to ask you, Shayne, is there anything else before I ask this final question? Is there anything else that you think is important for our viewers to know? Because, like I said to you, I do get the odd current JW watch my channel as well. If there's anybody like that watching, what would you say to them as an ex-elder?
What we got told as a Jehovah's Witness is that the world is a horrible place, that there's nobody going to love or care for you, that you're going to be on your own, that you're going to be enslaved to drugs, to addicted to sex, sleeping around left, right, and centre. Yes, some people have done that, but it's not the rule.
No.
There are groups of people that will talk with you without judgment. They just want to help you to be happy.
Mm.
They will care for you. They
Yeah.
will support you. And most of all, they will love you unconditionally without boundaries.
Oh, I love that. That's so lovely, because the world, even Satan's judicial system, cares more about Jehovah's Witnesses than God's supposed representatives. I mean, to me, that just sticks in my craw every single time I think of it in those terms. But I just, it's been amazing talking to you. Absolutely brilliant talking to you and getting some inside information on, Jehovah's Witnesses, what it's like to be, an elder, and then obviously having knowledge around the New Zealand Royal Commission. But I always ask when I finish up talking with my friends here, always ask this question, because it is the Escape from the Tower series. So, Shayne, my question to you is, if I was to say to you, Shayne, you escaped from the tower because, what would your answer be, please?
I was sick of it. Simple as that. There was no
That's the
belief.
shortest answer. That's the shortest answer I've had.
Honestly,
It's great.
I don't know. But I
Right.
was honestly sick and tired of the whole thing. Yes, I still love some of those people in there. Not that I'm
Yeah.
talking to them,
Yeah.
because I'm speaking out here in New Zealand. I know the elders were using my own words against my son, who I've not spoken to for years. And I
Right.
know they will be talking again, encouraging him not to do
Yeah.
whatever. I
Right.
still love my son.
Of course you do. But
Um,
is he still a Jehovah's Witness then? He's shunning you. Is he
I have
shunning
no
you?
idea. I haven't spoken to
Oh,
him.
okay. Right.
I presume
Okay.
he is,
Yeah.
just like my daughter's mother is
Right.
still,
Okay.
like my daughter's out, but my mother's not. Now, both me and my daughter, we don't hate the witnesses.
No.
We love them very much. The friends that we've, if you can call them friends, but we just got to get on with our lives.
Right.
Our
Okay.
life should be happy.
It should be.
And any
Exactly.
negative force, like a criticizing Jehovah's Witness, and that's something they've been taught to do, that's not what life is all about. Instead
What?
of criticizing, why not
Mm,
just ask, if any Jehovah's Witnesses do listen to this, why not just ask this simple question and believe what the person says? Ask them, why did you leave the Jehovah's Witnesses? See what they have to say and do your own research.
yeah.
If they say something, ask a question.
Exactly. Thank you. That's really, really good advice. So, really, if I could just drill it down to the fact that, when I said to you, you left the watchtower because you were sick of it, what what were you actually sick of? What were you actually sick of?
Doing everything, knocking on doors, preparing for meetings,
Yeah,
personal study,
yeah,
um,
the whole lot.
the whole lot. There was no scriptural doctrine in my case. There was no belief structure. I just wanted out. I was sick of it. I needed a break. I was getting burnt out and tired. Sick of it all.
Mm, right. Okay. But you don't believe it. But you don't believe it. Well, you were disassociated, so you don't believe it's the truth. So we can just clarify that.
No, I don't
Well,
believe it's the truth.
Shayne, it's been absolutely amazing listening to you. I want to thank you wholeheartedly for coming onto my channel and having a chat about things and life and your experiences. I'm sure everybody will be glued to this interview, but for now, I mean, I'd love to have you back as a returning guest sometime. It would be lovely to speak to you, and I just want to say thank you, and I wish you all the very, very best for your future. And whatever you're doing, you know, may it be successful. And to my viewers that are watching, as you know, I always finish by saying, take care of yourselves, show love to one another, always be forgiving, but always speak your truth and be your true, authentic self. Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.